My goal is to hopefully we get, uh, you know, 20, 50, 100 people on these live shows, and you guys are asking your questions and everyone's learning. And I think that would be a good way to go. Today, we are talking about paralegals, shame on you, who are defrauding their customers. We're going to be talking about some other things as well, differences between LDAs and paralegals and what you can do and not do. And really, this is for awareness for future clients of ours, because we know people that have been taken advantage by paralegals. Half my business comes to us from folks who have hired someone and their divorce was never finalized. We'll be talking about that. I'm going to go over some specific instances of clients that we handled who were intentionally defrauded. And I have some examples about that. I have a video to share with you of news reel that they talk about this specifically. We're going to go over the rules of who can help you, who can't, specific issues that we've come across. We're going to talk a little bit about what we do, how we're different, and a whole bunch of fun stuff. So stay tuned. And I do have some slides to share with you. So let's get started. Okay. So who am I anyways? My name's Tim Blankenship. If we haven't met, divorce661.com. I'm a legal document assistant. I've been doing this for 10 years. I can't believe I've been doing this for 10 years. So anyways, things are good though. I'm not complaining. We specialize in divorce in California. So we only handle divorce. We don't do anything else but divorce, anything divorce related. If you need a parenting plan or a custody schedule or your judgment done or the whole divorce process, you want to modify your judgment, you want to terminate support, you want to change something in your settlement agreement. What else do we do? We, when your kids have a withholding order and they graduate from high school and you need to have that removed, we do termination of withholding order. So anything that's amicable that you and your spouse agree to, we handle in divorce. Now, I don't know if anyone's online just yet. My ticker is saying 0. And I started doing this at 3:00 and we had some people show up. I started doing these live shows at noon a few days in a row, and we've had some people show up. And YouTube said, if you go live at 5:00 Monday through Friday, that's when all of your viewers are there. And I don't see you here. So we'll see. We'll keep, to ask me to do this. I know you didn't ask me, but for me to do this at the end of my day at 5:00, I'm not saying it's the last thing I want to do, but there's definitely some other things I could be doing. In fact, if I keep this up, I may have to get a glass of wine if I'm going to power through these after my work day. So as far as my credentials, because if I'm going to start blowing people up and saying how bad these paralegals are that shouldn't be doing what they're doing, who am I? Well, I've worked for the LA County Superior Court in the past. So as it pertains to, I'm actually a retired LAPD, started going to law school, was working for a law firm, found this niche called LDA, happened to have enough units to qualify to become an LDA, and then went back to school to get the paralegal certificate so I could be an actual paralegal. So I'll tell you about the differences of when you are considered a paralegal versus when you are a legal document assistant and why you can be both. But yeah, I worked for the Superior Courts after I worked for a law firm, and I did that to get some experience to learn family law because that seems to be what everyone does. I provide a full service divorce solution for people going through divorce in California. So we can work with any court in California to help you guys get through your divorce. We do cases from start to finish. We handle cases if you get stuck, if you worked with someone who's no longer calling you back and they messed up your paperwork. That is about 50% of our business. So we had offices for years. We found that most of our clients weren't coming in. We adopted to technology early on, and that was good for our clients. However, the courts didn't adopt to technology until about last year. Now everything is kind of caught up to where we want to be with e-signatures and our MyCase platform, our portal, our electronic notaries, all of that. So, and we're going to be talking about that as well. So that's me. Specialize in divorce the last 10 years, remote service full service legal document preparation service. All right, before we get into, and so it makes sense what I'm talking about, it's important that you understand the difference between LDAs and paralegals because most people do not. So, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to kind of give the basic nuances. An LDA is someone who has been licensed by their county, or I should say registered is probably the proper word, and you have to have specific qualifications, and it's a combination of a few things. It is, having worked for a law firm for 2 years, having a 2-year degree, and having worked for the courts, having an ABA paralegal degree, and no experience, I believe, is something that would allow you to become an LDA. You have to do 20 hours, I believe, of extra training every 2 years, and you have to reapply every 2 years. You have to have a bond that you have to pay for, and so basically you have to show your proficiency, and it's the way that this industry is monitored. We are allowed to work directly with what they call self litigants, so people representing themselves in their case. And it's not just divorce. We just happen to specialize in divorce. Many LDAs that do what I do, they will mostly are all doing divorce, but then they may do bankruptcy and what else is there? Just anything you can think of, civil stuff. I mean, there's so much you can do. I don't believe there's anything that's prohibited, except obviously we don't represent clients. That's a big part of what we don't do. We don't give legal advice. That's something we don't do. But as long as you have an LDA registration, you can assist clients who are not represented in helping them do their paperwork, get through the court system. Some people stick to amicable divorce cases like we do. Some people will take on cases that are going to court and, going to trial, and they'll do all their trial work and all that. We've did that in the beginning, when we were new. We felt we needed to spread our wings and get as much variety and service that we offered. But now, having been doing this 10 years, we're just sticking to the more simple, amicable, cooperative type divorce cases. And when I say, simple, we've done divorce cases with 6 kids, 10 properties, millions in assets. It's not how difficult it is, meaning do they have assets and debts, but are the parties cooperative? Because we've also, to give you an example, handled cases where the parties were married for a couple of days and they were battling it out. They were so upset, they're battling out and going to go to court. Started off amicable, and now they were in trial over nothing. It can be silly. Now, so that's what an LDA is. A paralegal does a similar function. Okay, does all the same things, except they have to work for an attorney. They cannot work independent like I can and other LDAs. They have to work under the supervision of an attorney. And therefore, you're not hiring the paralegal. You have to hire the attorney or the law firm. And then the attorney can, under his supervision or her supervision, have that paralegal do the work, some of the work that we would even do. So the main difference is that I want to make clear is that most people out there that you'll find online, excuse me, get a drink of water, are paralegals and not legal document preparers. And you're not going to know the difference. And that's part of what I'm doing, why I'm doing this recording. And I'm kind of curious to see who we get on listening either now live or in the replay, if it's paralegals that are going to be upset with me doing this, or other LDAs that are like, "Yay, Tim, thanks for doing that." But it's more about awareness. This, I'm going to shine some scary light on what people have gone through with paralegals, and but I just want to shine some light, show you the difference between what we do. Because if you're going to a paralegal who is not a legal document preparer, number one, they're not technically by law allowed to do that. Doesn't mean they're not doing it. Like I said, if I had to guess, probably 90% of the folks out there advertising, divorce services are paralegals and not legal document assistants. So, and you guys don't know the difference. It's not your fault, but if I can bring this to your attention, that's what I want to do. Now, if you hire an attorney and the paralegal's doing the work, that's totally fine. But if you contract directly with a paralegal and you're paying Sarah Parker, the paralegal, and she's not an LDA, they cannot by law help you. Doesn't mean they're not, but that's why there are these problems. So we've talked about what LDAs can do, what paralegals can do, what paralegals cannot do. All right, why are we talking about this? So I guess I was getting ahead of myself. Awareness. I want folks to be aware of the differences between paralegals and legal document assistants. One of the most difficult and challenging things of my job is when we're having consultations with clients who have already gone through some of these issues. That we're going to get to on the next slide, that they are so hesitant. They've already been burned. It's just bad. I wrote bad industry reputation. So, like I said, everyone throws us into the same boat. Paralegal, legal document assistant. I mean, I advertise as a paralegal because if I put legal document assistant, no one knows what that is. I make it clear that's what I am on my website because I want people to know that we have the accreditation, the certification, the degrees, the training experience, the registration, we pay a bond and all that. But I am upset when people call me and I have to have the consultation is more about, are you, now that they've been burned, now they really are vigilant because something already happened. So industry reputation, I want to keep the reputation good. And I've really taken steps to do so to the point, and I'll show you in the next slide, I've actually talked to the courts about certain firms that are being fraudulent. So that's why it's important that I went over this to let you know the difference between paralegals and LDAs. And then now I'm going to specifically talk about what these paralegals are, maybe some LDAs. I don't know. Maybe there are some fraudster LDAs out there. So talk about what these paralegals are actually doing. And I'm going to give you some specific examples. And then also I have a video to share with you where the news actually caught this and investigated it. So I titled this slide Fraud as the Business Practice. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is their business practice is to perpetrate fraud by cheating their clients one way or another versus just being upfront. Here's my cost. Here's what I charge. Here's my fees. Here's how much the court fees, being transparent. They, at the very deepest levels of their core, are intentionally, their business practice is intentionally to defraud their clients. I'm going to give you some examples. So at the lowest level, we talked about paralegals not being able to do this. At the very minimum, if a paralegal is marketing outside of a law firm, or even if they're not even working at a law firm, some people, what you'll find is a divorce paralegal working for XYZ law firm will take on the side divorce cases of their friends and family because they're familiar with the process. They're doing most of the work, right? They're not going to trial, but they're doing the petition and the judgments. They're doing all that. They're just not doing the trial work. So do they know what they're doing? Mostly, but what's happening is that they don't know the nuance that the attorney gives them as far as how the process goes, and that's where it gets them into trouble. The other thing is many of these people doing divorce cases are paralegals in non-family law attorney firms, so they don't know the first thing about the process. Even the attorneys that don't practice family law don't know about family law practice and divorce, because we have clients who are divorce attorneys who said, hey, I've been an attorney for 20 years in civil litigation or bankruptcy, but this divorce stuff, I don't know how to do this, and they'll become our client. So we know it's complicated and confusing. And then some people will get a paralegal certificate degree online or through school and whatnot, and maybe it's a valid certificate, but then they will just start offering these types of services and they don't know what they're doing. So at the very minimum, if you're advertising directly to a consumer under your own umbrella as a paralegal and you're not a legal document assistant, you are not allowed to do that. So you're already fraud. Okay, now I'm going to get into some specific fraud practices that I have seen. And all of these I've seen and known and reported to the court. And I'll tell you what the court's response was. So low fee offer, and in notes here. So file for divorce only. So here's a low fee offer tactic. hey, XYZ company, how much do you charge to file for divorce? I charge $500. Oh, that's great. That's a great price. That's cheaper than Tim over Divorce 661. So they hire them, they pay the $500 fee, and then they do their paperwork and they say, oh, well, yeah, now there's a $435 court fee or whatever it is for your county. So now they're into it for, almost $1,000. So that's one way. Another way that this low fee offer is they, so that in that particular case, they were not talking, they did not explain that there was a court fee until after they were paid and did the paperwork. Another low fee offer, fraud, is that they will say $500 to file for divorce. And let's say that they include the court fee. So $500 is my fee plus $435 court fee. And they say, okay, great. Here's your $935. They do the petition and they file the divorce petition. And the trick to that is, and I don't know if you're catching the play on words, is they said $500 to file your divorce. What do you think the consumer thinks? They think, well, that means all of my divorce paperwork is going to be completed. And what they do is they say, oh, no, that wasn't to file your entire divorce. That was to file for divorce. So that's another trick for the low fee offer. One is not including the court fee in the disclosure of their costs. And the second is only filing the divorce paper. So it's basically a loss leader. And we see that a lot in the online divorce community. So they're saying $500, $435 court fee. I'll file for divorce. You file for divorce. They say, oh, my divorce is done. They said, well, I filed for divorce. You still have to finish your divorce. You still need to do the judgment. There's a lot of other paperwork. And by the way, we charge extra for that. So, and this is one of my favorites. This next fraud as a business practice, a low fee offer. And what they do is they keep the court fee. So check this out. And this is the one I reported to the courts. And then I'll tell you what the courts did. So we had a client come to us. Well, let me tell you what they did. Let me back up. I'll tell us a story. So we had a client come to us. They went to XYZ paralegal firm and they were not a legal document preparer. And they filed for divorce. They thought their divorce was done. 3 or 4 years went by. They realized their divorce was not complete. They call us and I have to say, well, what, do you have your paperwork? Do you have a case number? Do you have anything? They don't have anything. And that's another thing to be concerned about is when you're not getting copies of your paperwork. It's so bizarre that people, even that have attorneys, they don't have any copies of their paperwork. We have a portal where all your paperwork, you have total access 24/7 to your documents that we filed and statuses and all that good stuff. So we did our research and found, searched by name, LA County, found the party's name. And this person was a doctor at a local hospital and, had paid, I think $1,000 to someone. This is, 7 years ago. So I'd only been doing this for 3 years at that point. But when I looked at the case summary, because you can see online and see the case summaries, when I looked online, there was a fee waiver filed. And so I asked her, I said, oh, did you filed a fee waiver? Are you not employed? She said, no, I'm a doctor. I said, well, the paralegal firm filed a fee waiver on your behalf. So to cut to the chase, if you're not following along with what I'm saying, they charged a low fee. So we're talking about low fee offer, the court fee. They charge a low fee. So let's say they charge $8, doesn't matter, $500-$600. So they're going to undercut most other companies, especially if you're a registered legal document assistant, right? And then they say, and the court fee is $435. What they did is they pocketed the $435. So they got their, let's just call it $500. And then they kept the $435 court fee. And then they doctored up some fake fee waiver documents. So they defrauded not only the customer, but they defrauded the court. So they're selling this low service by pumping up what they're earning by not giving the money that's been earmarked for court fees. They are keeping it themselves and then filing false fee waivers. So we try to get copies of the fee waivers. They're confidential. I tried to get order copies from the court just so I could see what they're doing. But in order to do that, you either have to show low income and you have to provide pay stubs. It's not that easy to get a fee waiver these days. You have to show pay stubs. So they had to first sign this person's name. So they forged their name. They would have had to falsify pay stubs. They would have had to show, falsify like a Medi-Cal card, which gives you instant approval. So there's all kinds of fraud they had to commit to do this, just to have a low fee, keep the court fee, and then file a fee waiver. So this client of ours was shocked. I wrote a letter to the supervising clerk at the Los Angeles Central Courthouse, and I provided evidence. I wrote a declaration for the party, just because she was concerned that, what fraud did I am I involved in with this, which is none, because it was done behind her back. But I wrote a letter, gave evidence, showed what they did. She wrote a declaration she signed saying I didn't have fee waiver. This isn't me. She gave me the company name. I ratted them out big time. Guess what happened? Nothing. No response. Court's being defrauded. There's a known paralegal company out there defrauding clients and the court. No response. So hopefully something like that changes, but that's, again, another reason we are doing this. So there's a lot of people out there doing these low fee offers, either by keeping the court fee and falsifying fee waivers, or saying, we'll file your divorce, and then only filing the petition and then baiting them in, saying, well, if you want us to finish it, it's more. They've already sucked you in. The next one, fake case numbers. And I think I have a video to show you. You see here, it says video. It's my note to myself to show you the video after we show these business practices that I am well aware of are happening and are seen happen on a regular basis. So fake case numbers. There's people that are going one step further. So I told you, we're kind of going down this list where, at least they were filing the case in the previous fraud by falsifying the fee waivers. At least they had a real case number. And in that case, by the way, once that was done, they never called her back. They never returned their calls. And I don't know how people get away with that, because if I'm 15 minutes late, if I told someone to call someone and I don't call them back, or they leave me a message, at 5:05 tonight, and I don't call them first thing in the morning, they're on me. And maybe it's because we've set that level of expectation of excellence in our service. And maybe in these cases, they just weren't expecting any level of service at all. But people really need to, start complaining or writing bad reviews or something, because I said, what'd you do? Nothing. I spent a bunch of money. They don't call me back. So I'm just moving on. And I'll tell people, hey, you already paid them, pay them in full, make them do what they said they should do. And they just don't return calls. It's crazy. So fake case numbers. These folks are going to the trouble, kind of like a Bernie Madoff, creating fake statements altogether, showing increase in your 401k. They're just coming up with fake case numbers, and that's easy enough to do. You can see online, like for family law in Los Angeles County, if you're in the industry, you're going to just figure out how the numbering works, and you'd be a fool to use their numbering, because if you run the case number, it's going to come up with someone else. But, like in LA County, it's for Central, it's 23 STFL, and it starts with 5 zeros, and they go on up. I think we're in the 600s now in Central. I think we're in the 200 or 300s in Chatsworth. So lots of divorce cases going out there, but they're issuing fake case numbers, and maybe they're even finalizing the paperwork, but it's all completely under a false case number that doesn't even exist. So obviously there is no divorce. So going on with fake case numbers is also fake judgments and court stamps. You can order these stamps, have a stamp made somewhere. It looks, clerk of the court, there's $10. You can get a stamp made online. So we've seen entirely fake judgments, divorce cases, all the paperwork, petition through judgment with the judgment's fake. There's a stamp, a seal, city of LA or whatever county, fake everything. And they'll say, oh, they went, how is this being discovered? They go to get married and register their marriage, or go somewhere that they have to verify and bring copies of the divorce, and they'll look it up, and they're like, this is not, we don't show this with the county, this isn't filed. And that's how we'll discover it. They'll come to me and say, hey Tim, we filed this in LA County. I said, not in, it might be in LA County in another state, because this is not a valid case number. And we'll find out that they never had a divorce case filed, and this has been going on for years, and it's unfortunate. So those are like the most biggest fraudulent way you can be in your paralegal firm that you shouldn't be doing anyways, because you're not an LDA. But let's talk about people that are trying to do the job. So you're still not supposed to do it because you're not an LDA. And this might apply to some LDAs as well, because we're not all perfect. I wrote, never finalizing your judgment to never heard from again. So that's what happens in these cases is they will file a petition, everything will be going well, or so they think. They'll do the disclosures, they'll start working through the process. They will finalize the paperwork, submit the judgment to the court. So everything's so far so good. And then the judgment will get rejected. And they once they realize that they didn't know what they were doing and the court rejects it, up to 4 pages of reject items. We've seen people come to us to fix it all. It was apparent that they never knew what they're doing. You see, here's the issue. When you file the petition, now this is whether you're, one of the paralegals I'm talking about, or even an LDA or anyone, just if you're a self-represented litigant, you're trying to do your own paperwork. When you file your petition or anything for that matter, up until you file the judgment, nothing is reviewed by the court. They're not looking at your petition to see if you marked the wrong boxes. They're not checking if you did any of the paperwork right until you submit the judgment. And that's when people get surprised. They're like, well, I filed for divorce. It's pretty easy. Summons, petition, case cover sheet, UCC, JEA, filed it, served it, did the disclosure forms, and then they submit the judgment and they're like, whoa, what's this reject? Everything was fine. No. You look at the reject sheet, the petition was filed incorrectly. It has to be amended and refiled and reserved, like start from scratch, literally. Disclosures done improperly, proof of service is incomplete, defaults getting rejected, and you're basically starting from scratch. So I think people are shocked when, and I digress, half of our business comes to us for people that have tried to do their own divorce, fell into one of these scams, and judgment was rejected for one reason or another, and we fix it. So half our clients come to us as brand new clients, never started the paperwork at all. The other half come to us to fix the paperwork once they've tried to get to some degree through the divorce process. Some are all the way through let me back up. Some of them have filed the petition and then they got to the next phase and like, you know what, this looks a lot tougher than it is. It is. The summons and petition are easy. I think most people can do that. There's still a ton of mistakes you can make, and people do. But people will do that. They want to save some money. I get it. They think it's simple. Then they get the instruction sheet of what's next. And they're like, oh my God, there's a whole bunch. If they get through the second step, they're like, oh, they see the judgment, and that's where people will call. So maybe they didn't submit their judgment, and that's where they call us for help, and we'll take over their case. No problem. We review all your paperwork, start to finish, because we can't just do your judgment and not review the stuff beforehand, because we know that the stuff beforehand you filed can cause a judgment to reject. Some people have turned in their judgment half a dozen times over a 2-year period, because it can take several months to get them back depending on what county you're in. So, and I've worked for the court. I don't know if I mentioned that at the outset, prior to doing this, just for experience. I worked for the family law court, and it was San Fernando at the time, then Chatsworth, and also Central, specifically in the family law division, reviewing the judgments for the judge. So the judge doesn't look at these judgments. He's handling trials. He or she's handling trials. If you think the judge is reviewing your court paperwork, they're not. There's a judicial assistant. They say, right? Judicial assistant that's doing this. Usually the clerk in the courtroom sitting next to the judge. They're always busy. You'll notice they're either in trial or they're sitting down. Those people hustle. So if you're a judicial assistant or court clerk, I know you guys hustle. They never get a break. Plus, then you got people like me calling them, asking questions all the time. And if you hear them whisper, if you ever call in and they're whispering, it's because they're in trial. So almost lost track of what I'm talking about. So anyways, just there's a lot of fraud going on. The fake judgment stamps, the low fee offers. But the judgments, when you submit that, that's when you're going to know you did something wrong. And that's what's happening in these cases. They get so flustered that now their fraud has been discovered, that they had no idea what they're doing. And they just can't help but not call their client back because they don't want to do the work. They can't fix it. They didn't know what they're doing to begin with. And I'm sure this is not a surprise, unless this was their very first time filing a divorce for someone and it got rejected and they're, and they just went out of business. But I don't think that's the case. I think this is what they do. They do the paperwork, they do the judgment, so they can probably say, hey, I did your paperwork. Yeah, I got rejected. That's not my problem. But they're just not calling the clients back. Okay. Taking contested trial type cases. So I told you in the beginning, I only handle amicable, cooperative divorce cases where both parties are participating. I don't even like taking default without agreement cases, meaning there's no agreement, but the other party's not contesting anything, because those can be as tricky as a trial case. It's just highly technical to get through the court. We do them on certain occasions and only specific situations, only after I've reviewed their petition, because your petition has to be filed a certain way in order for these true default cases to go through. But taking contested trial cases. So when we first started, I was telling you that we would take all comers. So we would do motions, request for orders. They were called order to show causes back in the day. But basically, that's if you file for divorce and there's no agreement and you want to get in court, and maybe you want some temporary orders for child support or custody or anything, you file what's called a request for order. You write down, you do a declaration and say, this is what I want. This is why I want it. You file it. You get a court date. Serve your spouse. They respond. They write what they want. You go to court, and the judge makes a decision. Now, that's just for temporary orders. That's not for a full trial. So we would do some of those. We haven't done any in 5 years. It's just not worth our time. They take a lot of resources and energy, because you have to look up family law codes and all this that pertain to their particular situation. But what I'm talking about in these cases is paralegals taking on, and this can apply to LDAs as well. The LDAs will take on trial cases, because we're not representing you in court. You're going to represent yourself, but we can do the trial prep. But what happens is, and I know an LDA who got slapped a little bit by the Bar Association, because they're very clear that we cannot give legal advice. And so in this particular case, this LDA I know, and we correspond frequently, she was slapped, basically heavily warned, because she did some trial prep work for someone. They went to court, and this was based off of a letter she wrote for her client. Remember, we're not representing them. And basically said, hey, this is due within something was due within a certain period of time. And there was a family law rule that specified it. And she cited the rule. And the other party complained that she was practicing law, filed a complaint with the Bar Association, and they actually investigated and gave her a verbal written warning, kind of like a probation thing. So when I heard that, I was like, you know what? I am not going to even attempt to be involved in that, because you would be citing family law codes and so forth. Say, hey, so-and-so wants this, and pursuant to family code section 1, 2, 3, 4, this is why the court should order it. So I don't want to even pretend to be a lawyer. I don't want to pretend to be one on TV. So we just, backed out of that. It wasn't a big part of our business. It was a little bit of it. It just was very time consuming to write these lengthy declarations and get people ready for trial and serve those and all that. So taking contested trial cases goes one step beyond that. Those folks are doing interrogatories, all the judgment prep, final declarations of disclosures, trial briefs. I mean, it's very in depth. And they're charging big money for it. There was a paralegal, not an LDA. Someone called me to get some assistance with their divorce. It was a contested case, which we don't take. But I said, oh, how much were you, who did you talk to? And they didn't remember the name. And I said, was it a law firm or a paralegal? They said paralegal. Of course, I said it was an LDA, and they didn't know the difference, and I get it. But they were charging a $5,000 retainer to help them with their paperwork. And I was like, well, maybe I should do that. But no, we go on volume, happy clients. We go on volume. We handle a lot of cases, amicable, simple, cooperative. Anyway, so I think maybe fraud is, that's a category. Trying to act as an attorney a little bit, and just, you got to be careful, because you can get in trouble in doing that. All right. So I put remarrying while married. So what does all this do? We've had people, and we have again, half our clients come to us who have gone someplace else, been defrauded, or they just didn't call them back, or what happened, or thought their case was finalized. Maybe it was the low fee offers filed for divorce only, and they thought their divorce was done. I can't tell you how many people think, even when they file their own divorce, they filed for divorce and they thought that was it. Back in the day, so we're in 2023. So I say back in the day. So 10 years ago, the courts never got involved at all. Your case could sit for 20 years and you'll never get a single notice from the court. So as far as you're concerned, if you say, oh, I filed for divorce, you sure did, you got a case number issued, but those people think they're done. And what that causes is people thinking they had their divorce. And we've had so many clients over the years who have been remarried, new kids, new family, new everything, been married for 20 years, have grown kids with their second marriage. and then realize that their first marriage was never dissolved. So how does this come about? You can get married. Oh, let me back up. I handled a divorce where she had been married 3 times and none of them had been dissolved. None of them went through a divorce, and she was on her 4th marriage that she's trying to dissolve. And we found out she had 3 other marriages that not dissolved. So how does that happen? How can someone get married if they're still married? Not supposed to, right? Well, it's only verified through certain agencies. So if you go to, let's say, your church and you say, yeah, I'm divorced, they're going to want a copy of your divorce decree. That's when people will call me crying saying, Tim, I just found out that, my divorce wasn't done. I've been married 20 years. I have 3 adult children with this new husband. Does that make my divorce or my marriage void? No, it doesn't. That's for another day. But people panic. I let them know you're fine. The problem is they have to tell their spouse, their current spouse, that, oh, by the way, I never was divorced. And then the worst part is they have to try and find their other spouse because they have to still get that divorce done. So yeah, remarrying while married is a real thing. It happens all the time. Maybe one client a month I'll get that has been remarried and their divorce. They find out later the divorce was never finalized. I was telling you, how does that get found out? By going to church and they want a copy of a divorce decree, and then they try and dig it up and they realize, oh my God, it never was done. In some of these cases here, it was just a petition filed, so it was never finalized. Or maybe they had a fake case altogether, so there's never a case at all. Or they just thought their divorce was done. But some people will go to register their new marriage or to get a marriage license, and you need a copy of your divorce decree in order to do that if you've obviously been married before. And that's another time it'll come up. So again, at least once a month, we'll have someone call crying that their divorce was never finalized and they found out 20 years into their new marriage. Again, doesn't make your existing marriage void. It makes it voidable. Small nuance. What's that mean? When you tell your spouse, your current spouse, hey, I'm still married, I didn't know it wasn't my fault, they could say, oh, well, it's voidable. I'm going to file to void the marriage now that I know. That's never happened. I mean, if you're married, I don't think that, little detail, it wasn't like you concealed it intentionally so you could get married. So, but everyone's concerned that it automatically makes their existing marriage void, and it does not. So all we do is we just, as long as you can find your former spouse, we just finalize the divorce. If no case was ever filed, or in some cases is dismissed, we will, start a new case and just go through the normal channels. Still going to take the 6 months or whatnot, but it'll get done, and nothing to worry about there. So yeah, remarrying while married happens a lot. So I said, this is as opposed to trying to learn the business. I don't consider that fraud. When I was new, again, we've been doing this for 10 plus years. I had taken the steps to become as knowledgeable as possible. I worked at a family law firm for a while. I also simultaneously was working for the Los Angeles Superior Court in the family law division. So I saw it from an attorney's perspective. I saw it from the client's perspective as far as, how working directly with clients and what paperwork needed to be done for a divorce. And then I saw it behind the scenes. So I was telling you that I actually worked for the family law court, both Chatsworth and then there was San Fernando back in the day, and then Los Angeles Superior Court. And I would work as the judge's judicial assistant for the self-help center. So I wasn't in, each court has a self-help center where you can go in, and I don't know if you can even go in anymore. I think it's all done by Zoom, but go in and you help people do their paperwork. That's not what I was doing. I was actually in the behind the scenes, the judgments that I now prepare and have prepared for the last 10 years. I was the one that would review those judgments and reject those judgments. So would you think I know how to do a judgment? I did that for quite a while. And that's all I would do day in, day out, is just review, make sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed, the boxes are checked. Procedurally, the paperwork was done correctly, reject them. And we rejected probably 90% of the judgments that would come in. So I am the perfect person to handle your divorce judgment. If your judgment's rejected, I tell people, I feel like I'm the Matrix. The Matrix, they had the green lines on the computer. I can look at a case summary and I can tell you exactly what's going on, what the problem is. I can assess rejected judgment sometimes and many times better than the court, because they're not perfect either. And I know I'm patting myself on the back a little bit, but I am really good at that. I'll even see a judgment that went through, like part of the process was approved, like say the entry of judgment was approved, and there's certain things that can reject that. And this just happened last week. The client hired me. I reviewed. They sent me all their paperwork. I was like, "Ooh, that's not right." But the default was entered. For instance, the default can't be entered if the proof of service is invalid. Well, they had amended the petition and served it just fine, and then they filed an amended proof of service. But what they wrote on the proof of service is amended at the top. And what that tells the court is you're amending the original proof of service. That's not how that's done. So I caught that, but then I saw that the notice of entry of judgment was entered. So I was like, I'm not going to say anything. So we submitted it. So what, just to go back, what should have been done is you would write on the summon, or I'm sorry, on the proof of service where it says what you served, you would say amended petition, amended summons, and they didn't do that. And it's very confusing. It's highly technical. I didn't want to call it out to the court because they already had entered it. So we submitted the judgment package electronically, and it was rejected in like 3 hours. And they said, we made a mistake. Sorry, the proof of service is invalid. And they explained what they explained. And I said, yeah, that's what I saw too. But big deal. We amended the proof of service properly. And then directly right behind that, filed the judgment. It was approved the same day. So thank God for electronic filings in LA County. Good job, guys. I wish the rest of the state of California, since we file in every county, would get on board because it's really bad in some counties. So I kind of went off on a tangent there. I want to show you a video where a newscast, I want to say this was in Canada, and but it was exactly what I'm talking about. It's maybe 2 minutes, and I want to make some comments on it, and then I have some more slides to go over with you. So hang in there.
The legal papers for Aaron Penman's divorce are worthless now. The paralegal he hired a few years ago filled them out wrong and didn't even file them with the court. Instead,
Didn't even file them with the court. I was telling you that earlier.
Penman says Nyasha Muyambo gave him a fake file number so Penman would think the job was done. $1,100 later, the money was gone. Penman was still legally married.
And then the excuses, he got harder to get a hold of, refused to talk to me.
See, that's what happens. Once they're caught, they don't, there's a problem if they're not calling you back. Put it that way.
And eventually he blocked my phone number. And during the process, I was getting nervous and I was starting to make some phone calls. Like, is there a dispute resolution center for paralegals? And is there a governing body for paralegals? And everything come up, nope. Anybody can call themselves a paralegal and hang out a shingle. Yeah, then you're hung out to dry.
So I think this was in Canada. I think just the way his pronunciation of some of the words, I want to say at the end, maybe they say it's Canada, but I watched it a few times. I should know that. But so it's a little bit different in California. There is a distinction. And that's what I'm trying to clarify here. You need to be an LDA, legal document assistant, or legal document preparer to do this. And that's why there's these certifications. There's a governing body. There's associations that you don't have to belong to. But so maybe a little bit different there. But yeah, can anyone just call themselves a paralegal and you don't know the difference and you hire them? Absolutely. And these same problems are happening.
Yambo didn't answer any of Go Public's messages either.
Nothing. No answer. He's a hard man to get a hold of.
And at the business address on his website, the house is cleared out.
That should be a red flag right there. Doing business out of your house. That should just be a red flag. I knew when I first got into this, I do a lot of YouTube videos. I have like 1,500 YouTube videos. So when I came onto the stage here in Santa Clarita and across California, I got a lot of angry calls of people saying, why are you giving all your information for free? Why are you doing this? And that's for another day. But I had an office and, locally and so forth, and people would come in, but this guy said that he would not go to, he wouldn't have people come to his house. He would go to their house. He told me stories about being bitten by dogs and his houses being nasty and all that. And you got to start, somewhere. So I get it, but maybe meet at a, public place, a library or something like that. But if you're going to someone's home, I think that is a major red flag.
He's also wanted by police after another client complained he did the same thing to him.
So currently,
Mr. Nyasha Mwambo has a warrant for fraud under $5,000.
Unlike lawyers who are regulated by provincial laws, in many parts of the country, paralegals are not. So there's nowhere to go to find out if a paralegal
Especially when you're not supposed to be doing it to begin with. If you're not an LDA, and which there are governing boards, you're a paralegal doing this fraudulently, shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, I agree with that. Who are you going to complain to? Who are you going to go to? So these folks out here get away with murder.
is trained, insured, or even honest, and nowhere to turn if there's a problem.
And if I didn't touch on that, I want to cover it again. A paralegal, again, who shouldn't be doing this, aren't going to have the certifications, the training experience required to get the certification. That's probably why a lot of people don't do this or get the licensing or registration, as it's called, because it is a lot. And there is every 2 years training, 20 units that you have to take and go down to the county and get re-registered and prove that you've done that. And you have to have a bond. So if there is something that goes wrong and you get sued, that's covered. So as a paralegal, there's really no recourse whatsoever.
As paralegals in some provinces asking to be regulated, worry that the reputation of the entire profession is suffering because of a problem few.
Literally anybody can walk out their door at any time and say, oh, I'm a paralegal and I can help you with your legal problem. And these people in the public who are being taken advantage of, they've got no recourse. And we also are really looking to protect members of the public, vulnerable people of the public, all people, from some rather unscrupulous people who have been running around and charging a lot of money for paralegal services that are not up to the standards that they should be.
Some provinces, like Manitoba and Saskatchewan, are looking at regulating. Ontario is the only one that already does. In BC, paralegals have some oversight working under the supervision of lawyers. But Alberta's government, where Muyambo was last operating, is dead set against new rules. That's disappointing to Penman.
I suppose 99% of the paralegals are operating in good faith and trying to get the job done. And it's just there's a few people out there who are scamming.
So that's really wanted to show you. So these problems are real. They not just here, but everywhere, obviously in Canada as well. But this is happening. So do your due diligence. Check things out. Let's go on to the next slide. All right. I want to talk to you, and I may have covered some of these just by rambling. What do I see on a daily basis? So what are some of the calls I get, issues that are coming up, problems with paperwork? So and this is in particular to people that have done their own divorce, tried to do their own paperwork, used another firm, a paralegal service that shouldn't be doing this, someone that's new to the business, whatever. Judgment rejects. Like I said, you can do your petition, you can get all the way, everything will seem like it's fine. And then you'll turn in the judgment. It's the first time the judgment's being reviewed by anyone in the court. Because when you turn your petition, they take your money, stamp the form, give it back to you. The clerks are told, do not give any instruction on the forms. Even if you see something, told you, I work there. Even if you see forms that are wrong, you can't tell them. It's considered giving legal advice. And they're told not to do it. So ask them, they will tell you. So when you turn in the judgment, that's when these things get rejected, and they can get rejected for a host of reasons. There's 4 or 5 pages on the LA County reject sheet, and most of the rejected reasons are the same in all counties. So yeah, reject of the judgments is half of our business. I told you I did that for a long time, reviewing the judgments and the matrix when it comes to seeing what's wrong and fixing judgments. Petition reject. So again, the petition doesn't get rejected when you file the petition, but when you submit your judgment and they review it and the judgment gets rejected, and if it was one of the causes is because the petition was done incorrectly, that is an issue. And then you have to basically start from scratch. You have to do your entire divorce from scratch. You don't have to pay the fees again. You get one amendment of your summons and petition, but one chance to fix it. So if you've already done your second amendment and you come to me and it's still wrong, we just had that happen. They filed a petition and summons and messed it up, amended it. Oh, this is the same case I was telling you about earlier that the proof of service had the error. And this is someone that was doing their own divorce. So I'll take it easy on them. But when they amended the petition, they made a different mistake. And we've seen that before as well. So we are trying to push that judgment through again, and hopefully they will let it slide and not make us file a third amended, because to do that, actually it's a second amended. So you have your petition, first amended, second amended. So it'd be the second amended petition requires a hearing. And this was at Van Nuys. So Van Nuys is they're prickly over there, if you know what I mean. So judgment rejects, petition rejects, they can all cause rejects. Cases taking years. So this could be for reasons of they thought their divorce was finalized and it wasn't. It could be working with an attorney and they're not moving your case through the courts fast enough. You know, we move those cases fast. We usually have our cases done in a week. If you come to us with a full agreement in place, like you guys have already talked about everything, we'll have your divorce done in a week. I mean, it's not going to be officially divorced in 6 months still in California, but we'll have the paperwork done. You'll have electronically signed it all. We'll talk about that later. You would have had it e-signed and e-notarized if you're in LA County. I'll talk about that later. So we move fast. We don't do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, or however many steps the court breaks it into, or, you know, however they do that online. It's nonsense. We crush it and do it all together, all at once, all in one go. If you get the information, we have all the paperwork done, e-signed. Certain things procedurally have to be dated at different times. And so we just won't have you date a particular form until a certain form can be filed. So like we have a petition filed on a certain date. We have to wait a certain period of time, like 30 days or 40 days, depending on how it was served, to file the request to enter default. We will predate that. So the court, because what will happen is our clients, if they're hand signing, they always date the 165. And because the paperwork is done so soon, they've dated it too soon. It has to be after a specific period of time. So through electronic signatures, we can insert the dates automatically that we pre-program. Other things I see, the case is taking years, again, through attorneys or just the paralegals not following through, following up, or because of multiple rejects. It can take in some counties 2 months, 3 months to get the approval or reject. For instance, today, what do we have? So Orange County, and I do videos on these little YouTube shorts to just for information. People find our videos. I told you I've done, I think, close to 1,500 videos, but I'll do shorts during the day, just kind of updating people. Like today I said, oh, we just have an Orange County case back from court, judgment approved. We submitted it in end of November, and we just got it back in the middle of February. So they're running about 3 months. And so I'll do that. But yeah, so 2 or 3 months. So imagine if that was rejected and you turn it back in, you fix it, whatever the issues are, you think you fixed it, or even if you did fix it, you turn it back in and another 2 or 3 months goes by and then it gets rejected again. And one thing I wanted to say about these judgment rejects is the court is so busy. Come on, if it takes them 3 months, and this is a dedicated person reviewing these judgments, that's what they do all day long. If it takes them 3 months, imagine how many they have and how fast they're trying to get through them. And I'm sure they have a quota. So what they'll do is when you're representing yourself and you don't have an attorney or you don't have someone like myself submitting on your behalf under our cover letter, they're already looking for reasons to reject it. They know you don't know what you're doing. It's obviously in 99.9% time your first divorce, and it's going to be wrong. So when they do that, they will find 2 or 3 reasons, reject it. And let's say you actually accurately correct those 3 rejected items. You turn it back in, 2 or 3 months goes by, and it gets rejected again, only this time for different reasons. And that happens all the time. I told you there's people that have them rejected multiple times, 4, 5, 6 times. Sometimes they're the same issue. Many times they're always new issues. There's so much wrong with their judgment. The court is not going to go through and say, fix these 25 things. They just don't have time. They're going to find 3 things. Maybe it's the first 3 things that catches their eye, or the first 3 documents they file, they review, reject it, and they know they're not going to deal with that for another 3 months. So yeah, it can get bad. And so I think I did a video today where we had a client who wanted us to just file their response, actually, because they think it was going to be contested. So she just wanted us to file their response. And so we did that, and we e-filed it. And we've kept in touch and say, hey, we can finalize your divorce, but we don't handle the contested side of things. So she said, well, if we come to agreement, we'll come back to you. So this was about a year, 18 months ago. And suddenly in the last 4 months, because I did the initial e-file of the response, they're attempting to submit their judgment. And I keep getting notified because I'm on the service list through our e-file provider. And so I keep getting notified that they're trying to turn their judgment. And it's been like 5 times they're trying to turn in their judgment. I emailed her and said, hey, I'm getting notified every time, by the way. I'm still here. If you guys are obviously amicable that you're turning in your judgment, but you're having so many problems, and I can see the reject reasons. A lot of times they're the same, and then there's additional ones every time. But there's a whole host of reject items, and it's just not their fault. It's very complicated to get through a divorce. So other things I see with issues with people not doing the right paperwork or understanding the rules, the laws, if you will, not understanding child support, not understanding spouse support. So with child support is mandatory. We have clients, despite that, say, Tim, how can we get no child support? Like, we know there's probably be child support, but we don't want there to be child support. The answer is yes. But if you don't understand what I'm saying, or you're new to this, the courts say child support is mandatory. And it is. You can't waive it. Just saying the word waive is just, you're using the wrong language. So what has to happen is you have to retain the court's jurisdiction over child support. You can ask for what's called a non-guideline order. I'm getting into the weeds here a little bit. So if you are an LDA or whoever, paralegal watching this might help you. You attach a non-guideline order to your child support order, your 342, and that solves the problem. I'm not going to go into details on that. Spouse support. A big issue with people trying to do their own divorce is when they're trying to terminate spousal support on long-term marriages. Well, that requires a special waiver language. The court is rude. The clerks are mean. They will not give you legal advice. They'll say, we cannot terminate jurisdiction over spouse support because you do not provide the appropriate waiver language. See in RE Rea Vomaca. And that's a court case that talked about how to, what the criteria are for terminating spousal and long-term marriage. And the short story on that is, if you have long-term marriage, if you have a marriage of 10 years or longer, the court considers it a long-term marriage. And the general rule is jurisdiction will remain over the issue regardless, unless both parties sign this waiver. And there's like a page and a half of language that you're never going to know, but the court won't give that to you. Just had a client, just had someone say they did their entire divorce using all of my videos, because I have 1,500 videos, and if you pick through them, you're going to find all the how-to forms in there, probably multiples of every form on how to do it. But his judgment was rejected because he did not insert the language trying to terminate spouse support that they agreed to on a long-term marriage. So it's understanding nuances like that is causing cases to take forever, and why people are coming to me for help. Okay, so I want to talk about online divorce services. They are setting you up for failure. I get it. $39, do your own divorce, DIY, $49, $59, $69, $99, whatever. They are setting you up for failure. I don't know what percentage it is, but of the cases that come to me, let me just put it this way. A good percentage of people that come to me that try to do their own divorce, some of them have used any one of these myriad of online divorce services, and you get it. Judgment rejected, paperwork rejected. They are not a good way to go for divorce. Maybe for other things, I don't know, a quick claim deed or something simple, but not for a multifaceted, multi-paperwork process. It really setting you up for failure. That's why I made that note here. Set up for failure. You're throwing your money away. Maybe a small handful of people get their divorce through, maybe with no assets, no debts, no kids, no alimony, short-term marriage, maybe. But if you have any of the others above, the paperwork is wrong, the marital settlement agreements are wrong. It's just a bad way to go. And I get it. You get sucked in. on the price, and they have all these great reviews. And I always tell when people come to me and they paid, they started with $99. Then they're like, oh, do you want us to file it? And there's another, $200. Do you want us to review your paperwork? There's another $300. I had someone pay $1,500 to an online divorce service, and their divorce was rejected. And they're doing all the work. That's the best part. They're filling out the forms by typing information into a system that's not being done by a human. The client is, they type it in and it just translates that into, it populates a form. So if you type something wrong, the form's wrong, and that's not being reviewed. So it's a bad way to go. We get a lot of clients coming to us. We've already lost money. And I always tell them, try and get your money back. But these companies are smart. They have it set up that you can't get refunds. It goes back to them not calling you back. Okay. Courts guide and file. So I'm not exactly sure, but maybe a year ago, the court came up with their own guide and file service. And I thought it would be something that would be good, because they're basically taking the money out of the online divorce service hands, because you can basically prepare your paperwork exactly like I was talking about. They have the same software, type system where you type in, who's the petitioner, fill out what's the date of marriage, fill it out, and it populates the forms. Then you can do your initial documents, and then you can even select an e-service provider and e-file. So I said, well, that'll be good. At least people won't have to pay to do that. They can do it through the court's guide and file. I think that's what they call it, service. But now that's causing problems as well. So now that it's been about a year, here's the problem. The court, and even if you go to the court self-help center, they set you up. Everyone's in the same box, square box. They do everyone the same. If you're amicable, I don't care. This is how you're going to do the paperwork. You're going to do these property declarations. You're going to attach it to the petition. And that's how they have you do it on the guide and file. And I can get the court's perspective. They're doing it because they're setting everyone up for possibly to be going to trial. They assume you're going to divorce. It's going to be litigated. Our clients are not, obviously, and we do tons of cases every year. But these property declaration attachments to the petition is causing a nightmare for people, because if you leave property off, if you don't include property, if you list property improperly, it's going to cause your judgment to get rejected, because your petition, once you attach something to petition, now your petition is wrong if something attached to it is wrong. So the guide and file, we're now getting cases, lots of cases, where people have started their divorce through guide and file and filed it, and that part they think seemingly went well. And then when it gets to the next steps, they can't file that electronically. And they're realizing that they made mistakes. And now, how do you amend your petition through the guide and file? You can't. It's only for the initial filing. So even the court's guide and file, thanks for trying, guys. It's just not going to work. Not a good way to go. But at least you didn't pay $1,500 to have it rejected. Online sites, monthly fees. So we have clients telling us that they cannot stop these charges. Some of them have so it's $99 down and $59 a month, and they're calling it for some like storage fee, like there's storage. So it's just a way of keeping the money coming in for the company. But when they are, and of course they're not going to be motivated to move their case forward, or and plus you're doing it yourself. It's an online service, so they're you're just continuing paying this $59. I think that's, maybe it's to motivate you to move your case forward. But people have reported, and I don't remember the company name, I would definitely say it, is when they said, hey, I'm done, I'm moving on, I whatever, they can't stop these. And I guess some of these are in foreign countries, Ukraine and other places, and they just can't stop them. And then they have this way of tracking your card. So people have canceled their card, got a new card, and somehow they have the sophistication to reattach the charge to the card. Kind of scary. So the other day, so I wrote down online sites working with one party only. I want to do a separate video all about online divorce cases online divorce services, because it's anywhere from $39 to one site said you'll never be more than $5,000. And this particular site, I looked up who owned it, and it was owned by an attorney. But what I got from it was this, I can't remember the name of it, this online portal, start your own divorce, for $99 again. I think was more of like a lead magnet, if you know what I mean. Like they just want to get your contact information. And so $99 seems like a safe bet. They get your contact information all with the purpose of funneling you into their attorney service. So they don't care if you're amicable or not. And they probably hope that you're not, because they had this one caveat. I hadn't never seen this before. So if you're going to do an online divorce, I would imagine it's because you guys are amicable. Okay. It's still not a good way to go, but that would be the case, right? They had a specific service that says start with one party, like we'll only do your paperwork. So here was their pricing tier. If you're just joining us, we're talking about different online services and how they're not a good way to go, even if you're amicable. And now we're talking about this particular cost strategy. In this particular case, in this particular online divorce provider, again, I was telling you that I did the research on it, it's owned by an attorney somewhere up north, Bay Area, I think. They had three pricing tiers: $99 for the online divorce service, just do it yourself, DIY. $1,500 if you just want to do your paperwork. So they're only going to do one side of the paperwork. How is that? How are you going to finalize your divorce if they're only doing one side of the divorce paper? So if you're the petitioner and you file for divorce, and then you're going to have to serve the paperwork and go through that, do your disclosures, then what? You're done. You're totally, I mean, you can't move forward. And they're charging $1,500 for that. So then guess what happens? I told you it's going to be like a lead magnet, kind of a funnel. Oh, your husband or your wife's not cooperating. Well, we do have mediators, which they do. We have referrals to mediators, to attorneys, and all that. So again, I think it's one big funnel. And thank you for the one big funnel for them. The online DIY is not going to work. The guide and file doesn't work. We talked about that. So they get you in the door for $99, and then what do they say? Oh, you're not amicable. Let's do. Why don't you bump up to our next tier, and that's $1,500. $1,500, and it's still online. I charge less than that. I'm charging currently, it's 2023. I don't know why I looked over here. It's 2023. I charge $1,200 for a full service divorce. I do it with these fingers, and I do the filing. I do everything. $1,200 plus the court fee. And they were $1,500 plus the court fee for one person. I'm working with both spouses. So I really need to look at my pricing schedule, but $1,500, and they're working with one person. So how does that now work? So they have 99, and maybe you paid that and you're doing your own paperwork. Oh, it's not working. You're probably getting marketing emails all the time. Oh, step up to us. We'll do the paperwork. Pay the $1,500, or maybe they give you a credit. So let's say it's $1,400. They do the other paperwork, and then it says guaranteed approval from the court, all the things that you see online that makes it look good. But how are they getting your divorce approved if they're only doing your side of the paperwork? What if your spouse goes and gets an attorney or doesn't do anything? You're stuck, and you paid $1,500 plus the court fee, and your divorce isn't done. I think that is false advertising to say we can handle your divorce. All paperwork will be filed and approved by the court. Yeah, the ones that you submitted, the petition perhaps, the proof of service perhaps, and keep in mind, they're not doing the work. They're not doing the work. Like where I said, I'm doing it with my fingers. These are still going through doing an algorithm or an online software that you're filling out the information yourself, and they're charging $1,500 for that. The next package they have is $2,500. So if you want us to help you and your spouse all the way through the divorce process amicably, I would imagine. Again, you're still entering all the information yourself. So I don't know what the difference is, because you have to have a settlement agreement. You have to have both parties on there. So, but that's $2,500, and it's all online. I think they'll file it for you, but they're not serving anybody. They're not handling the proof, any of that. So $2,500 online divorce service. Again, I really need to look at my pricing. So I really have a thing with online divorce providers. Again, we get a lot of our business from them. People have already wasted their money. There's a couple of these agencies, these online services that are trying to get creative in sucking people in. Again, they went from 99 to 15 to 2,500. And then guess what? On their website, if you look closely, it says, your divorce with us should never be more than $5,000. Well, what happened to $99? I don't think they ever have an intention of you finalizing your divorce for $99. And they talk about referrals to mediators and all this other stuff. I think they're just trying to get you in the door. There's another company out there that does the same thing. They try and do it mediated and, through mediators. So if you you're not amicable. You don't want to get an attorney, but they're doing like online mediation. And then they'll also try and do the paperwork, and they just starts at $1,000, and then mediation's a couple $100 an hour. So it's just, you're run of the mill mediator. It's just being done online. So online divorce services, really not something I would recommend. And I get hit up all the time from some of these companies who offer this service, like an onlinedivorce.com, or that's not one of them, but one of these companies calling us saying, "Hey, do you want to white label our product and put an online divorce option on your website?" And some of them have a really good sales pitch. And I even talked to them and like, how many cases are you getting? And what is the approval rate? And here's the deal. I have looked at those and they just are not, even that I'm on the back end, I might as well do it myself. I might as well, because if I put white label some online divorce service, I see a comment here. So I'm just going to see what that is. Oh, hey, Patty. Thanks. I think you're my one viewer. Anyways, if you are, now you made me lose track of mine here, Patty. Thanks a lot. So anyways, I want to move on because I did lose what I was thinking about. And that's the risk of looking at the comments. Anyways, online divorce. Oh, thanks. I remember now. So they're trying to get me to white label their online divorce service product. And when I look at the back end of them, it's you entering your information. So what happens to me then? They submit it. First of all, I'm going to charge them what? A lesser fee, obviously. They're going to do all the work. Then I have to review it all and then fix it all. I tell you, when people do their own divorce and come to me and I have to fix it, that takes me twice as long than just if they would have hired me from the beginning. And they're paying the same fee, whether they hired me midstream or not, if they came to me newly. And another mistake people make, going on a tangent, is when people have followed the court's rules, file the petition, pay a $435 fee, file the response, pay a $435 fee, because that's what it tells you to do. Those people have already spent $870 in court fees, maybe a couple $100 in online divorce service. That's about what you're going to pay me to do it myself. Me personally, do it, handle the whole thing from start to finish. All right, moving on. What we do different. We handle only amicable, cooperative clients only. I don't care how many assets or debts you have, how many houses, how many children. We've done it all, believe me. If you're amicable, it's easy. People will say, "Oh, I want to be easy. We're simple. We don't have many things," or something like that. And I'll tell them, it's not about that. It's about, if you're a cooperative, that's what makes it easy. Because we've had people that have been married 3 days, 2 weeks, a month, and they are not amicable. And they have nothing, no assets, no debts, nothing. They want to fight. So, and that's, found out on a consultation where they're just not going to be amicable. It's very interesting. We handle uncontested or default with agreement type cases. Again, not contested cases and not true default cases. So uncontested, all that means is, and that's the word that's out there, uncontested, that actually means to the court that a response was filed. So if you want to do an uncontested divorce, that costs you twice the amount of court fees because the petitioner pays a fee, the respondent pays a fee. Whereas how we handle our cases is default with written agreement. We do this purely to save our clients money. It's the same as an uncontested divorce. It just doesn't come with the secondary court fee because we're not filing the response, but everything's the same. You're still both going to be involved entirely, start to finish, and you're both going to sign a marital settlement agreement. Both parties must participate. Again, we don't handle true defaults. That's where one party is not participating or cooperating. I was mentioning how we have a portal. So this is not an online portal. I want to be very clear. I think you'd be aware of that now, of how much I hate online services. But when I, with these fingers, prepare your paperwork, we enter our clients, both parties. We always work with both parties, never with one. Enter them into this My Case portal. It's a great portal for communication, document uploads, e-signature platform. And once you guys are in there, you can comment, you can text me, you can message me. Everyone sees what's going on all the way through the process. When I upload a document or need something signed or send a message, you get an alert in your email to log into My Case. I actually have on our website a direct login directly to the My Case through our website, so you can get access to the portal through our website. No office visit. We are completely remote. before the what happened from where, we uh, went remote. We had offices. I had up to 3 offices and 6 employees at one time, and I think everyone got a paycheck but me. And the rent got paid, and we did a ton of business like we do now. But no one was really coming in. Maybe 1 or 2 a week. So we decided to close offices and go totally remote. And business has been better than ever. People, it's helped that people have been more accustomed to doing things remotely now. But what is even better is that the courts have caught up with us, whereas we have been, and I put a fancy word in here, digital first. I stole that from my wife. We've really grasped technology, but the courts are slow to grasp technology. So we've always been trying to do e-signatures, and courts will say we don't allow that. There's still courts that don't allow that. There's still courts that don't even allow fax signatures or scan signatures. Everything has to be a wet signature. It's crazy. LA County really came around. Last year around April, they started allowing their petitions to be e-filed, which fell right into what we do with having our cases e-signed. And then about 2 months ago, they went to the judgment being allowed to be submitted. Now, and I've said the word game changer like 1,000 times. So I feel bad for clients who are going through a service that is not digital first, it is not embraced technology, who's going to someone's home or some office unnecessarily. All of our clients are working. They're working 1 or 2 jobs. They're both working. One's working. Doesn't matter. You don't have time to go someplace for this. When you get home, you can deal with this. You can call me on your lunch hour. You can communicate, through chat with me. Everything's getting done fast. Let me show you how this works. You retain me. We have a consultation. You retain me. Sorry, let me back up. We have a consultation. I send you out the information. I have a form you'll complete. It's a link to access automatically within our system. So when you complete that form, it populates on my side, so I know what's going on. Your name, party's information, kid's name, date of birth, all that. This doesn't go into the forms. Remember, not online service. It goes into our software. Then I take that. I get you set up in our My Case portal. Add your spouse. Send out some video emails, because most times I haven't spoken with both spouses, just one. So I want to make sure the other party's on the same page and knows what's going on, who we are, who we're not attorneys. We're not here to give you legal advice or handle amicable cases. And it's just a big update through video, which I like doing because they haven't seen my face. It's just been a phone call. We do the initial petition immediately, usually within the hour of being retained. We upload that to the portal. They e-sign it. I turn it on, e-file it. And if it's LA County, we usually have it back the same day or next day, depending on what time of the day it is. If it's other counties, all of the counties now, that's a lie. There's still some holdouts on the e-filing. I'd say 90% of the counties will let you at least e-file the petition. So at least you can get a case number issued in a reasonable amount of time, 2 or 3, 4 days, maybe a week. Whereas San Bernardino, San Francisco, Riverside, no e-file of nothing. You have to mail it in or drive it there, I suppose. And it's taking a month, 6 weeks to file a case just to get the case started. It's bizarre. We handle cases throughout California, so we've dealt with every single county in California. I know the nuances of each. I even know the nuances of the clerks of each, because sometimes I have to correct them when they tell us something's wrong with our paperwork. I have to explain to them why it's not. Remember, I did that before. So upfront flat fees. In the beginning of our slides, we were talking about the fraudsters are with their people on the court, and then keeping the court fee and fraudulently filing fee waivers and all that craziness we talked about earlier. If you're on the replay and you're just joining us, go back to the beginning and check for the slides where I'm talking about the fraudsters. Our fees are always upfront, flat fees on everything. We've done that from our inception 10 plus years ago. People appreciate it. They usually are telling me the price when we're on the consultation. They say, oh, I know this is my cost, because we make it very clear based on your scenario, and we have it easy. 2 packages, assets and debts or kids, one price. No assets, debts, or kids, another price, and that's it. There's never any extra money that we charge you for. The only other fee you have in working with us is when you have to notarize your paperwork, and you're going to love this. So not only is our entire judgment e-signed in LA County only right now, petition in most counties, but in LA County, which is predominantly probably 70% of our caseload, and the other 30% is everywhere else. A lot of Contra Costa, a lot of Alameda, a lot of San Francisco, a lot of Northern County cases, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Riverside, unfortunately, San Bernardino, again, just because they're archaic in processing. So, but I digress. E-sign your entire case for LA County. It's amazing. What that looks like is sign your petition. We do all the remainder of your paperwork. Once you provide us the terms of your agreement, I hand type up your settlement agreement, all final judgment paperwork, upload that to the portal, and have you e-sign that. And that's usually done within a week. It doesn't have to be, but if you get me the information, I'm going to get knocked out and you guys are going to sign everything. Doesn't mean your divorce is done. It just means internally working with us is very fast. And the courts now, well, LA County, I did a test with some clients. I warned them. I said, hey, can I send you to an online notary? Because I was very hesitant. I didn't think the court would accept it. So because, and here's why, there's online notary is not allowed in California. You cannot be an online notary. But when I read the rule of how it's accepted, as long as it is an online, where the online notary resides, as long as it's legal in that state, that California will accept it. So I told the client, hey, if you don't mind, it might cause a rejection, but I want to try this online notary. So I partnered with notarize.com a few months ago, and we had the online notary, and it's awesome because not only did they e-sign the entire judgment within our portal, once I set up, you have to set up all the signatures. I then on my end, I set them up for electronic notary through notarize.com. So they'll get an email saying, Tim sent you your doc to be notarized. So what they do is on your phone or on your computer and you have to have a webcam because you have to do a facial verification and all that. It walks you through. You have to take a picture of your driver's license. They have to verify you on camera. They ask you, because I can actually see the videos. They ask you, do you know what you're signing? And then you sign on the computer. You get the notary, and once both parties have notarized, I get a notification that the notary's done. That's, before you'd have to go get a notary, then you'd have to, and back in the day before they allowed for the electronic notary, you had to mail me the original notary because the courts want only original notaries. And this has been awesome. We can have our paperwork done, like for me, internally, a week, 10 days, done, signed, notarized, all predated, uploaded into the portal, into the LA County's filing system, ready to be submitted at the appropriate time when we can submit, because there's certain timelines when we can submit certain paperwork. Other counties, today I think I worked on like 7 judgments. So if you're outside of LA County, the judgment needs to be mailed hard copy, wet signatures to my office. And I get, 3 or 4 of those a day mailed in from all counties throughout California where we finalize it. They had to go get a notary. And they're way behind the times, but we still have to kill a few trees to prep those judgments. And then we just mail file those with the court. So I think that's all I had for you. Do I have another slide? Okay. In closing, talked about fraudsters, that you need to be an LDA, not a paralegal. You need to be legit. Watch out. Don't fall victim. Do your due diligence. And I made some notes here. People are often surprised to find out that our service even exists, that you don't need an attorney. So people say all the time, oh, I didn't even know any attorney. Someone left me a review on Google today. Orange County case. Got that done, submitted in November, just got approved. They take about 3 months for processing. It's the other thing about the online submissions with LA County. We're getting 2-week approvals at all courthouses in LA County. 2-week approvals. It used to be 3 months in LA County as well. But 3 months, he wrote me a nice review, said, I didn't even know. And he told me that when we first spoke a few months ago, that he didn't even know that services like this exist. So they do. So, but what I mean by do you really need an attorney is if you are amicable, if you and your spouse can sit down at the coffee table, kitchen table, work out your differences, work out the terms of your agreement, maybe not everything. Maybe you just say, hey, we agree to be amicable and figure this out. That's enough. I can work with you. You probably, what we find out people need is just some filling in of the gaps of missing information. How does spouse support work? Child support work? How do we divide up our properties? Questions to me, I don't want to say silly, but we read that community property has to be divided 50-50. What will the court say? The court's not going to interfere. You guys do whatever you want. let the husband keep all the debts and wife, you have all the assets. Totally fine by the court if you guys notarize that. Things like that. That's usually all people need to know. And we handle this on our consultations. When you call, we go through this. I talk about what you've talked about, where you're at. I'll tell you whether I think we should file or not. Sometimes I tell people, hey, this is hold off. You guys are not quite amicable enough. And sometimes the filing of the petition makes it real. And then you guys go sideways and get attorneys. So I'll tell people to hold off till they've talked a little, talk down off the ledge a little bit, because I want to keep them amicable. I don't want to start them, take their money, and then they have to get an attorney anyways. And I'll tell people in our consultations, they'll say, oh, this, and that. I'm like, I can tell you, I've been doing this a long time. Those are all red flags. It's not going to work. Plus, I don't want someone in my business, that I'm dealing with that's a time suck. That's not nice to say. Not a time suck, but just not the type of service that we provide. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to them. I think that'd be the best way to say it. And then, do you really need mediation? We get calls, consultations for, I need a mediator. And so I don't advertise as a mediator. The problem is in Santa Clarita, there are no mediators. There used to be a mediator service. They're closed up shop for the most part, not out of business. They decided to retire. So the only mediators you have left to choose from are attorneys who also are doing mediation. So right back to high cost. And so when people call me for mediation, I definitely want to have that consultation with them. And this happened yesterday. She said, oh, we're looking for a mediator. I said, okay, tell me why you need a mediator. Well, we talked about it and we agree on this, and that. And we just had questions about, do we have to have the child support in there, or can we go a little lower on the spouse support? And, the division of assets and debts isn't quite equal. How can we do that to make it look? They don't need mediation. They hired me this morning because that wasn't mediation. I answered all their questions. No, that you don't need that. That doesn't apply. That's not a problem. But we've had people go to mediators, come to us with what's called a memorandum of understanding. And I would say, oh, how much did you guys spend in mediation? They said, oh, $1,200. I said, what didn't you agree to? He said, oh, we agreed to everything. We thought we had to mediate and someone had to draft this for us. And no, you don't bypass all of that. Mediation to me is sitting in a room or Zoom these days with a neutral third party who's going to help you work through those issues and give solutions and options that maybe you didn't consider. I do that, but I'm not going to spend 20 minutes on the phone with you guys mediating. But on the consultation, I will tell you, these are your options and solutions. When we're going through the process, tell me in plain English what you want. I will put it in the appropriate language. Don't worry about it. Tell me what you want. Don't worry about the rules. I can make it fit. I've never really had to change any language other than to legalese it up. Is that a word? Just so it'd be acceptable to the court is all. And last, how do you keep your divorce amicable? You need to talk to your spouse before you file for divorce. Attorneys won't tell you that. They'll get you in the office on a consultation and they'll have you file. They'll hire the meanest process server and serve your spouse at work or the most inconvenient time, because the more agitated they make your case, I'm not saying this is all attorneys, but they're out there. The more agitated they can make your case, the more in attorney's fees. We are the opposite. We are on the same page as you. We charge a flat fee. We're not an hourly fee. So I want to get it done fast too. The longer I take, the less money I make, essentially. But we are on the same page price-wise as far as getting your paperwork done. Some take longer, some take less time. But talk to your spouse. Number 2, communicate throughout the process. Number 3, use a service like ours, where we have you guys as a neutral third party all the way from start to finish. So we have one of our initial worksheets to collect your information. Before you hire us, says, before you fill this out, please tell your spouse that you're doing this, because we don't want any shock and awe. Remember George Bush? We don't want shock and awe. We want everyone on the same page. We don't want them getting a notification in an email, hey, your divorce has started. It's not what it says, but essentially, I mean, what's this, my case, divorce process thing. So tell your spouse. We will, again, going back, I will tell them, do not file for divorce until you've talked to them. Make sure they're amicable. Tonight I had 4 o'clock today, I had a consultation, and he said, yeah, we're amicable. We haven't talked in a few days, but they know we're going to get started. So just do me one favor, talk to them one more time before you start. Because the last thing I want to do is take your money and then we can't finalize your case. Again, it's not fair to you. It's not fair to me. It takes a lot of my time, And I'd rather you spend that money on attorney if that's what you need. But I hope this was helpful. We went an hour and a half tonight. I'm going to be going live. I'm going to shoot for 5 days a week. So this was a little bit different format. This was me ranting about online divorce services and fraudulent paralegal services and all that good stuff. But I want to build a community where I'm at 5 o'clock every day. It might not be every day, but you'll see it on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, where it'll say if I'm going live or not. We are answering questions live. So if you need help with your paperwork, if you need help with a form, your judgment was rejected, what you don't understand what it says, I can't go through your entire divorce. I have gone through an entire judgment reject sheet before. That took a solid hour and a half. You can find that on our live videos on our website. But answering questions, everything we just talked about, if you have a sticking point, it's procedural in nature, not trial related, and we're not giving legal advice. This is navigating the court process. What forms need to be completed? Why did this get rejected? And I want to do this for an hour and a half until all the questions are answered every day, 5 o'clock. So I tried this at 3 o'clock, had a few people on, tried this at noon a couple of days last week and this week. And YouTube sent me a message, said, hey, if you're going to start doing these live streams, your peoples are on at 5 o'clock. And I was like, well, I really like doing it at 12 because it's during the workday, and same with 3. And this 5 o'clock thing is, I got to walk my dog at 5 o'clock. I already heard him barking. He's already mad at me. So, but we're going to try this because I know you guys our clients are working. And so maybe you're home, you can catch these. If not, watch on the replay. If you can't be live, send me an email, use the contact button on our website, send me your question. I'll probably email you back the answer anyways. I usually do. But then what I'm doing is adding those questions to my Q&A as if you're asking it live. So we'll answer it live. If you have a live question, you can use the comments, use the chats. If you're watching this video on the replay, go ahead and comment and I will answer it on the next show. And as well as all the other questions that came in during the week. So I think the next one will be tomorrow. I think I have like 12 Q&As that came in over the last couple of days, including the end of last week, that we'll go over. And it will be very helpful. And then if you're on here, let people know, hey, the court self-help centers, you can't get in for months. They're doing things in group classes, I guess kind of like what I'm saying here, but they're not answering your specific question. They're just going over the form step by step. And if you got lost or, fell behind, too bad. You can reschedule your Zoom call, but they're not answering specific questions to you. And that's what I can help you with. Hey, Tim, we have this car and how do we divide it? And, things like that. I've been doing this for 10 years, thousands of cases. That's my forte. I work for the courts, handle the judgments. Abuse me. I'm hoping in helping you, I can get this content out here. I'd love to get a bunch of people on these calls asking questions, but if not, I will be on here answering the questions people asked previously. If you want to know more about our business, I put together a little video for you as we close out here, and I will play that for you. And hopefully we see you again and I can't find it here. So I got a delay. Did I lose it? Hopefully we see you again, and bring your questions, bring your friends. Let's make it fun. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Going through a divorce is confusing and time-consuming enough as it is. Choosing someone to handle the paperwork and process shouldn't add to it. But all too often, that's exactly what happens. The process is difficult to navigate. There are mountains of forms filled with legal jargon, and the courts won't help you. And think of the time you'll waste and the work you'll miss by going to court repeatedly. Since 2012, Divorce 661 has saved thousands of happy clients from the unnecessary stress and aggravation the process of completing a divorce can cause. Unlike trying to do it yourself, which quickly gets overwhelming, or hiring an attorney, which quickly gets expensive and then seemingly takes forever to complete, Divorce 661 is affordable, fast, and hassle-free. Serving all of California, Divorce 661 specializes only in amicable divorces. Our full-service legal document preparation solution is completed within days, not months, and allows you to work directly with us while we work with the courts on your behalf to finalize your divorce quickly. That means you never have to go to court, miss work, or navigate the complicated and confusing court system on your own. Save time, save money, avoid court. Let Divorce 661 handle the entire process from start to finish. Schedule a no-obligation 15-minute consultation with Divorce 661 today at divorce661.com.